Hello and welcome to GameSeg. Ys 10 is finally out in English, and since I've been a fan of the series since I started playing the games in the late 1980s, I figured I'd make this bonus episode just to review it. I did the same thing with Ys 9. Yeah, a lot of people probably won't be that interested in this episode, but that's fine. I just want to give the series a little bit more attention because it totally deserves it. So let's check out the game. Here it is, X Nordics. Ys 10 Nordics. It's from Falcom and it's available on the Switch, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and PC. I'm playing on the PlayStation 5 here. I've said this before, but it bears repeating. Each game in the series is its very own thing, and having experience with the other games before you play any of them isn't necessary at all. You can easily play this game in its entirety without ever having touched the series before. That said, this game takes place about a month after Ys 2. Yeah, the entire series is a chronological mess. It goes like this: Ys Origin, Ys 1, Ys 2, Ys 10, Ys 4, Ys 3, Ys 5, Ys 8, Ys 6, Ys 7, and lastly Ys 9. So yeah, there's no need to play through all of the other games first, but of course I have. I played through the game on normal difficulty. Anyway, this one starts out with Adol and Dogi traveling on a ship, which is how they often begin these games. It'd be kinda strange if they weren't on a ship. But then they get accosted, and then this lady named Karja downright murders the captain. It's okay though, because through a twist of fate, you'll be chained to her for the rest of the game. Wherever you go, she goes. That's right, the 3-character party of the last 800 or so Ys games is no more. It's down to 2 now. And it works a bit differently here. You can still switch between the characters with the press of a button, but usually it's not that important to do so. In previous games, different characters would be more effective on certain types of monsters, so the game would want you to shuffle them around a lot. Here, both Adol and Karja are effective against all monsters, and the only reason to switch in battle is if your HP starts getting low. The character who's not your main will then regenerate their HP slowly. But the coolest thing about being chained together is that you can hold the R2 button and then both of your peeps combine their attacks. This is so fun. You can also do many different special attacks whilst holding this button for greater damage. These have their own meter that depletes as the attacks are used and refills quickly on its own. These special attacks can be mastered if you use them enough, but their damage level doesn't increase if you do that, so I'm kind of wondering why that's even a thing. Each and every enemy has a life bar, which I absolutely love. Of course, this is just how this series has always been. Some life bars have barriers on them that you'll need to break down before you can truly start murdering your enemy. And some enemies can put up life gauge barriers more than once in a fight. It's pretty rare that I fought any monster without holding the R2 and spamming my special attacks as much as I could. One thing that's really nice though is that this game doesn't really require any grinding at all. This basically makes it the polar opposite of Ys 9 Monstrum Nox. If you simply kill every monster in whatever area you're going through, you'll probably be around level 80 or so at the end of the game, which is honestly more than plenty. There are pillars that restore your health and fix any ailments and also act as quick travel points within an area. If you make a habit of using the quick travel, you'll probably arrive at the end of the game with a lower level. Your level will also be lower if you don't do very many recaptures. I'll talk about those in a bit. As for the regular battles, the monsters here are all fun to fight and kill, and you feel good knowing that they're dead after you kill them. You also have mana abilities, which is this game's gimmick. For one, it's what's keeping you chained together, but it also grants you special abilities. Fortunately, all of them are conveniently unlocked at the exact moment you need to use them for the very first time. This can be anything from swinging on an energy rope to get across big gaps, or riding your little surfboard around on the water. You can also ride your little surfboard around on these blue rails to get to different areas. Who installed all of these? Seems kind of suspicious. Or you can use mana for finding invisible platforms. Or for finding invisible treasure that's buried in the ground. It can do anything for you.
Didn't expect this here!
Naturally, Adol somehow loses all of these abilities by the time Ys 4 rolls around, which is the next game in the series. Speaking of treasure, there sure is a lot of it here. So much to find, though most of it is kind of useless and only can be used to make other items back at your base. What is your base? Well, I'll get to that in a minute, but overall, the combat and the like is pretty damn fun in this game. I also really like exploring, trying to uncover every part of a map and, of course, get every item. I do think that there aren't enough buttons on the controller, though. There are so many things that the game wants you to do, and some actions need modifiers, like pressing R1 with R3 instead of just R3 on its own.
Didn't expect this here.
This isn't a huge gripe, and you do get used to it, but I think they might have been a touch too ambitious with your abilities in this one. Don't worry, you're still going to have lots of fun, even if you do something you don't intend to do more often than you might like. Still, it's overall very fast and very responsive.
Fire and ice!
One huge aspect to this game is the ocean. It's quite large, and I mentioned earlier that you have a base. Well, turns out that your base is actually a ship. That's right, your base is a ship. It's called the Sandras. You get this fairly early in the game, and you spend a lot of time here. You can sail around the sea, but it is a trifle annoying. You can only go so far before you run into a border and the screen fades out for one reason or another, usually to have a cutscene.
We've safely cleared the tyrant!
Heck yeah!
It's not quite open world though, so don't get too excited if you like that kind of stuff.
Not this way.
We can't go through here.
God, really? Control of the ship is okay. You can boost your speed with the L1 button and get inside streams that will help you go a bit faster for a short time, but it's still really slow, especially in the beginning. Don't lose heart though, because it does get better. You have weapons that you can fire as well. That's right, you can get into sea battles. Here's where the control of your ship kind of takes a nosedive. The camera can get turned around pretty easily, and it makes your ship almost impossible to steer. You have several different angles that you can view the ship from, and you'll find yourself accidentally switching views when you mean to be firing weapons. The ship battles themselves aren't super challenging though. If there's a big ship in the battle, you'll end it by boarding the ship and then fighting a few waves of enemies. You can get into these ship battles by touching these purple things on the sea. I did this a total of 1 time. I just wanted to see what these purple things were, and literally did my best to avoid them from that point on. Avoiding them is very easy to do, and there's really no penalty for it. Another optional thing are the recaptures. These are actually kind of fun though.
This is kind of fun.
Basically, an island has a shield over it because it's being used as a base for the enemy. You approach it and a ship battle takes place. What you want to do here is completely ignore all of the other ships that are in the water and just blast the glowing pylon things that are generating the shield. You'll have to do at least 2 waves of this, but it's pretty easy. After the shield goes down, you and Karja invade the island by running through a series of rooms, usually 3 or 4. Defeat all of the monsters in a room and move on to the next one. You want to do this as quickly as you can to get the best grade. Killing all of the monsters in these recaptures are good for easy experience. After you're done, the island has been recaptured. Yay for you! Your ship can be leveled up and given more firepower, usually with things that you find in treasure chests or just making it to a certain part of the story where a character can upgrade your ship in new ways. Your ship can eventually get more speed bursts that you can do, as well as a mana shield which can protect it. I always forget to use this, but my ship has never sank or been defeated. Not even once. Aboard the ship, you can disengage from the helm to wander around to speak with the various people who are helping you out. Your ship doesn't really make any progress towards your destination as you're doing this, so just keep that in mind. Anyway, many of the people on board will have stores and whatnot for you to buy or make things with. You do everything here on your ship that you would normally do in a town in a typical RPG. You usually can't outright buy health potions in this game. You have to make them with ingredients that you find. I thought this would make the game super hard, but honestly, you don't need them too terribly often. Much less than you'd think. You can even have luncheons with the crew. Suddenly, everyone is a 2D chibi character and it's all cutesy.
That's the stuff. Gotta love this flavor.
Delish! I could scarf this down for days.
That's awesome! These events are one of the very few things that can't be skipped if you engage them. But you'll want to do it because they really do a good job of leveling up your ship's abilities. There are several ship battles that can't be avoided, so it is a good idea to power it up as much as you can. What's nice is there are a ton of islands that you can disembark on and then go explore and defeat enemies if they're there. Not every island has enemies though, like this one, I'm picking fruit. You can save the game at pretty much any time, creating as many save files as you like. You'll start at the nearest checkpoint when you load a save though, so you can't run 20 steps, make a new save file, and expect it to be different in any way. At least that's been my experience with it. Not that I'm saving, every 20 steps, more like 35. One aspect that happens from time to time is when Adol gets zapped into an ethereal otherworld without Karja. Time stops in reality when this happens, and once you get back, you have no memory of it. To me, this might have been the most interesting part of the game. It reminds me a bit of when Adol would take a trip back in time at different spots during Ys 8. I really like that. You end up spending time with an old man who can't remember his own name, trying to figure out why he's there and why he's all alone in this place. It really does add to the mystique of the game, and I really enjoy playing these segments. There are other parts in the game where Adol and Karja can temporarily separate to solve puzzles Lost Viking style. You can switch back and forth between them at any time to throw switches and then move the other along before rejoining them to take on the rest of the area. The game does this a handful of times, and it's a nice change of pace. One thing that I really like is that the characters you talk to have blue icons over their heads. If they have nothing new to say to you, this icon becomes gray, and then you won't waste your time trying to talk to them just to see if they have any more new info. Also, it's pretty much impossible to get lost in this game. There's a red icon on both your map and on the game screen telling you where you need to go next. Unlike the early games in the series, this one doesn't really feature mazes. Even without the destination pointed out, it would be pretty much impossible to get lost in any of the areas. But the nice thing is that you're never once left wondering where to go next. Just head towards the red icon and you're good.
Suck on this!
Target hit!
So I haven't really talked about the story very much yet, and I don't really want to give away any spoilers, but the story's pretty good. I mean, it's not the best you'll ever experience or anything, but it's not absolutely insane like a few of the games in the series definitely have been. Anyway, let's talk about everything I haven't mentioned yet, including the presentation. Like most games in the series, Ys 10 involves not quite real but still kind of based on reality groups of people and lands. You, Dogi, and Dr. Flare, who are all from the first two games, are sailing through the Obelia Gulf when you encounter the Normans, who are basically sea Vikings, but not really. Once you join up with Karja, she is still the boss. Yes, you play as Adol, but Karja is still very much in charge as she's the captain of the Sandras. You're off to put an end to the evil that's tormenting this particular part of the world. Seriously, every region of this planet has its very own unique existential crisis which threatens the entire universe, or at least the world. The bad guys here are called Griegers, and they can't die unless someone with mana fights them. That's the secret of the mana. It can kill Griegers.
What's this? My wounds?
There are many different characters in the game, a large amount of whom will accompany you on your ship. They're all your typical JRPG characters, and that's fine. Some are annoying, some are overly cutesy, and so on. However, I didn't find any of the characters very endearing. At the end of the game where you go around and say goodbye to everyone before going on your next adventure like you do in most modern Ys games, I just didn't care what any of them had to say. The good news is that Karja isn't annoying. That's great, since she's with you almost all of the time. There's also a skill tree in here, kind of. It's called the release line. You place jewels or orbs or whatever they are and they can boost your stats a little bit. I kinda didn't care about this and didn't feel that it was needed, but it wasn't so overly designed or anything that I just didn't bother. I mean, if I can get some stat boosts, I might as well do it, right? There's also fishing in here, because of course there is. It's handled fine and generally easy to do, but I don't know why anyone would want to do it. I caught a few fish and then never bothered again because I didn't see the point. I'd rather have fun with the action parts in those same areas. But if you want to relax and fish, well, you can do as much as you'd like, just as long as you have enough bait.
Ready and... That went well.
Graphically, the game is a little bit better than Ys 9. The level of detail is roughly identical. There sure is a lot of fade in for objects and especially enemies in the distance though. This game can't draw moving things very far away for some reason. However, the game runs in native 4K now, or at least close enough to it, and it's also at a rock solid 60 frames per second. Ys 9 had a much lower internal resolution. The PlayStation 5 could definitely run this game at 120 frames per second at this level of detail without issue, but 60 frames per second is plenty fine. The PS4 and Switch versions are of course less good. I've read that the PS4 Pro can't even achieve 60 frames per second all of the time, but you can cap it at 30 if you want. As far as the 3D models go, they still look like they were built for a PlayStation 3, but with much sharper edges, better frame rate, and more colors than just browns and grays. You can see the tiled textures on a lot of things, especially the ocean. I mean, look how perfect and uniform that water is. Kinda reminds me of a fancy Mode 7. Still, it needs to be said that you don't go into the Ys games expecting God of War graphics. If cutting-edge graphics are a requirement for you to enjoy a game for some reason, then look elsewhere. You're not gonna find that here, you filthy graphics whore. The character designs in the game are mostly fine, though Adol does look a bit too effeminate. The 2D drawings in the menus are fine. Well, except for Adol. Look at his face. Just look at it. Adol is supposed to be 17 years old in this game, not 7. Why does he look like that? What's with that dumb smirk? I don't like it. Still, I feel the visuals overall serve the game well for the most part. As always, the music is great, just like it is for every Ys game.
Looks like this is it.
It's not outstanding though, as there aren't too many tunes that really stand out. All of it is pleasant though, and I didn't hear anything I actually disliked.
The hideout's down this way.
We'll slide to the bottom.
There are tons of voiceovers in this game. Tons.
And what could be better than that? Wonderfully done, Rafe.
Yeah.
I'm going out on a limb here, but I'm guessing there's about 4 to 5 hours of voice, at least. You can choose to listen in English or Japanese, so probably double that amount. The English voice acting is generally fine, except for the person who does Leela.
I'm sorry. I don't... any details.
She talks more coherently later in the game, but I'm not going to give you any story spoilers just to show you an example. Just know that her performance is quite irritating at best. Even more irritating than listening to me on GameSack. Adol's voice isn't exactly amazing either.
Didn't expect this here.
There's probably enough text in the game to fill 2 or so novels easily. It's a lot. Speaking of that, look how they spell hell. What's stranger is that they're not consistent, because sometimes they spell it correctly. So what the hell? So, to sum up everything, it's another action-packed Ys game. I like it. It doesn't offer anything new other than the somewhat lackluster ship scenes.
I hope I did a good job.
But it doesn't do some of the things that past games did that I didn't care for. Gone are the tower defense segments that were in Ys 8 and 9. You still do have battles that take place in waves here, but it's much faster and much more bearable. And actually, you know, they're kind of fun. It also tried something different than the typical 3-party system with the main characters. I like controlling the 2-character party. I had a lot of fun with Adol and Karja. It doesn't feel crowded at all, and it works really well. I'm sure that Ys 11 won't have the ship scenes, since Falcom has gotten it out of their system simply by making this game. For me, I like this game about as much as I like Ys 9. It's not as good as Ys 8 was, but this is still a worthy and excellent time. Funny enough, the PlayStation 5 says I played this game for 52 hours, but the save file at the end of the game says 25.5 hours. I don't think that half of my time was spent in cutscenes or menus, so I'm not sure what's up with that discrepancy. I'm more inclined to trust the game save than whatever the PS5 says, so I guess the game is maybe 25-ish hours if you don't count the cutscenes, maybe 28 to 30 with the cutscenes. It took me 9 days to beat it, playing a few hours or so each day. In the end, this game isn't for everyone, but if you like action RPGs, then this will 100% scratch that itch. It has lots of things to make it deeper, but you're not forced to do these things, which is great. You'll get as much out of it as you put into it. Overall, I'm pretty happy with it.
Seems kind of tough. Here goes! Lana! To me! How's that?
There you go, that's East 10 Nordics. Now, there were a few times during the course of the game where I was maybe a little bored or perhaps even a little annoyed, but in the end, I think it's totally worth it. In fact, I think I might go through it again on the New Game Plus and just plow through it because you get to keep your levels and your abilities and all that stuff. Could be really fun. So, have you played East 10? What'd you think? Let me know. In the meantime, thank you for watching GameSack. Alright, another review in the bag for a game in the Wise series. It's time to give Johnny Millennium a call. He's Canadian, so I have to speak French. I bet he's playing with his Wise games right now.
It'll be our little secret. Our little secret. What's that? Oh no. Hello, Joe.
Hello, Johnny. How are you doing?
Has he lost his mind?
Ah, good. You speak the language of freedom. So, Johnny, have you played Wise X No Dicks yet?
It's called Ease 10 Nordics. Not No Dicks.
So, what did you think? Have you found any dicks in the game? I haven't found any dicks, but there's gotta be some dicks in there no matter what the title says.
Dicks in an Ease game.
Come on, man. It's gotta be impossible for a video game, especially a Wise game, not to have any dicks in it.
Why are you talking about dicks on the phone with me? There's something wrong with this guy.
Johnny, you're starting to piss me off. Need I remind you that I have your copy of Wise 4, The Dawn of Wise, available exclusively for the PC Engine CD from Hudson Soft?
Hey, I'm upset you stole my game. I won that back.
You wouldn't want anything bad to happen to this, would you?
Okay, don't get crazy. Don't get crazy. He hung up on me? What a dick.
There's definitely some dicks in this game.